For thousands of years, mankind has gazed up into the deep veil of nightfall and wondered whether the vast starry expanse above us is merely the presence of bright celestial bodies drifting randomly across a fathomless, empty void, or a deeply structured cosmic kingdom waiting quietly to reveal its ancient architecture within the very fabric of all existence. For countless generations, the earliest human settlements stared curiously into the silent mystery of the night sky, sensing a profound and deliberate mathematical order hidden within the scattering of silver light. Drifting peacefully back through the shadowed corridors of time, we step softly onto the winding mud-brick streets of the ancient Mesopotamian city of Sippar, as its inhabitants slumber peacefully under the turning constellations. High above its quiet avenues, a gentle early morning breeze carries the sweet scent of blooming orchards over the towering temple platforms, where the dedicated priests stand perfectly still in the brisk air just before dawn, preparing their resting minds to translate the absolute mathematical certainty of the fading stars above. They felt an overwhelming pull to decipher this majestic canopy, longing desperately to understand the precise inner workings which govern the rise and fall of the warm sun, and the shifting patterns of the cooling rains. Their hypnotic and trance-like devotion would eventually yield the greatest ancient clay compendium ever pressed from the damp river clay, known throughout the ancient world as the MUL.APIN. But this monumental earthen archive was much more than a simple, exhaustive catalogue of distant planetary spheres and their movements. It served as mankind's ultimate, foundational understanding of the intricate inner workings of our universe, acting as the very first manual for decoding the language of the heavens. Through its highly organized columns, the chaotic darkness of the infinite sky was beautifully translated into a predictable sanctuary of absolute celestial logic. To make sense of this overwhelming cosmic system, the early astronomers achieved a breathtaking conceptual breakthrough that would forever alter human history. They realized that the dizzying expanse of the open night was not a simple, singular mass, but a meticulously organized mechanism consisting of different, distinct territories. By carefully tracking the slow drifting of the planets and drawing from the divine knowledge which had been so eloquently bestowed by the great Anunnaki gods to their sovereign, King Enmedaranki, these brilliant stargazers would eventually divide the entire night sky into three massive horizontal bands. This sweeping division transformed a wild celestial wilderness into a beautifully mapped cosmic kingdom, bringing an immense psychological comfort to the sprawling agricultural empire below. Every glittering star was carefully assigned to one of these three specific cosmic highways, ensuring that no celestial body wandered aimlessly across its velvety expanse. With this new method, the momentous task of tracking the infinite universe was resolved into a flawless system of mathematical boundaries, moving with the patient reliability of a slow-turning water clock. This majestic celestial architecture began with the central equatorial band, stretching perfectly across the vast expanse of the middle sky. This sweeping central corridor was known to the ancient priests as the Grand Path of An, the highest sky god who ruled over the uppermost limits of the universe. Within this glowing middle road, the familiar planets wandered through their predictable ancient pathways, serving as a bright and steady anchor for wandering mortal eyes. Looking downward toward the deep southern horizon, the dedicated stargazers identified a lower band of turning constellations, hovering just above the flat green plains. This low-resting celestial region was formerly designated as the Path of Ea, otherwise known as the wise water god Enki, who governed the sweet freshwater abyss far beneath the yielding earth. If you are listening tonight as your breathing slows and the weight of the day begins to drift away, consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us continue researching these ancient worlds and bring their stories to life for others seeking a peaceful place to rest and unwind. Let us know in the comments where you are listening from tonight. There is something deeply comforting in knowing that beneath the same endless canopy of stars, listeners from all around the world are gathering together to hear the distant echoes of forgotten civilizations. And if you would like longer, uninterrupted journeys into the ancient past, those are available through the Legends of the Dawn membership. Now we return together to the stars and the mesmerizing story shared with us by marks etched into smooth, wet clay thousands of years ago, telling of the careful cosmic arrangement of the celestial realm, of the Sumerian water god, Enki. Stars within this southern domain drifted incredibly close to the muddy banks of the ancient rivers, mirroring the quiet and mysterious essence of the subterranean ocean. The aquatic magic of this lower band wrapped the sleeping southern delta in a comforting embrace, connecting the deep waters to the starlit sky above. Then, casting their gaze upward to the highest and most profound region of the night, ancient astronomers identified the great northern sky as the path of Enlil. He was the mighty god of the wind and earth, a fearsomely powerful Anunnaki deity whose roaring breath commanded the rushing storms and shifting seasons. His sweeping northern domain stood proudly at the absolute summit of the celestial vault, functioning as the ultimate and eternal crown of the heavens. Because this highest northern path never dipped below the horizon, its unyielding stars served as the supreme authorities over the resting mortal world below. Ancient mankind understood that the great wind god held absolute supremacy over the entire celestial assembly, his high domain radiating an aura of immense and unchallenged authority. To maintain such an uncorrupted and flawless order across the vast universe, this primeval guardian required an extraordinary physical symbol of his supreme command. For the steady, constant rotation of this high northern crown dictated the precise rhythm of the earthly harvest and governed the fates of every beating heart in the sprawling mud-brick cities below. Deep within his secluded northern sanctuary, Enlil kept a heavy earthen ledger of divine radiance, containing the holy codes required to rule the cosmos and decree the fates of all living things. This majestic and intoxicating clay artifact pulsed with an unimaginable power capable of altering the very fabric of reality itself, securing his absolute supremacy. It was an object of such staggering and absolute authority that it required an equally powerful, fearsome primeval protector to guard its resting place from the envious eyes of lesser gods. The legendary artifact resting quietly within this high sanctuary was known to the ancient priests as the Tuppi Simati, or the Tablet of Destinies. It was not a mere record of cosmic events, but the literal and physical engine of the celestial heavens. Every delicate cuneiform wedge pressed deeply into its glowing surface functioned as an active and living gear driving the continuous hypnotic rotation of the entire universe. The supreme cosmic triad of An, Enlil, and Ea originally forged this mesmerizing artifact from the dark primordial mud of the sweet freshwater abyss. They carefully wove the absolute mathematics of the stars directly into the damp river clay, infusing the heavy ledger with the flawless blueprints of all existence. As the soft mud slowly baked under the blinding light of the heavens, it absorbed the pure essence of supreme, divine authority. This radiant masterpiece was gracefully bestowed upon the great wind god, permanently legitimizing his absolute authority over the sprawling terrestrial plains. Because he held this singularly magnificent object, his highest northern domain possessed the exclusive power to command the shifting winds and the earthly harvest. Whoever possessed this heavy, glowing ledger held the very reins of the cosmos, controlling the shifting tides of fate for every living creature upon the earthly realm below. The staggering weight of this divine responsibility radiated outward from the tablet, filling the quiet sanctuary with a thick and pulsing energy. Its holy codes hummed with a soft, resonant vibration that beautifully echoed the steady heartbeat of the great cosmic tapestry. Gathering the absolute laws of creation into a single physical object generated a brilliant and overwhelming aura that constantly tested the boundaries of the material world. The sheer concentration of such world-altering power required a vessel of immense strength to prevent it from consuming the mortal world. Only the flawless baked clay of the ancient rivers could successfully contain the blinding light of these supreme, universal edicts. Resting quietly upon its elevated altar, the artifact emitted a heavy and magnetic frequency that constantly nourished the roots of all civilized life. Protecting this sacred epicenter of creation was a duty reserved for a creature born outside the boundaries of ordinary mortal comprehension. As the heavy shadows of the northern sanctuary deepened, the massive and terrifying form of the great Anzu bird tirelessly patrolled its quiet halls. This monstrous, primeval sentinel possessed the fierce golden head of a roaring lion, seamlessly joined to the sleek muscular body of a giant eagle. Whenever the formidable guardian stretched his magnificent feathered wings, the sheer physical force generated roaring whirlwinds that echoed across the lower delta. His intimidating presence was deliberately designed to inspire paralyzing dread within the hearts of any wandering deities who might covet the throne. For countless peaceful ages, the fierce avian protector served as an unwavering shield between the fragile cosmic order and the chaotic nature of the untamed wilderness. But his dedicated patrol could not go uncompromised forever, for the ancient records warn that prolonged exposure to the pure, undiluted essence of such divine authority could slowly unravel even the most loyal of minds. As the majestic creature paced the polished stone floors, the intoxicating aura of the glowing clay began to subtly distort his primeval thoughts. The quiet, rhythmic hum of the universal gears whispered sweet and treacherous promises of unchecked supremacy directly into his feathered ears. A dark and covetous desire took root within his wild heart, completely overshadowing his sacred oath to the great wind god. He began to dream of holding the entire universe within his own sharp talons, imagining the sprawling mud-brick cities bowing to his magnificent shadow. This terrible jealousy simmered quietly within the silent, fragrant halls of the high heavens, waiting patiently for a single moment of divine vulnerability. Even in all his power, Enlil remained completely unaware of the treacherous storm brewing within the mind of his most trusted and fearsome guardian. He bided his time while the serene routine of daily operations governed life in the sanctuary, eventually providing the perfect opportunity to strike. Deep within the hidden corridors of his celestial palace, Enlil prepared to cleanse his physical form in the cool, purifying waters of his secluded bath. The heavily fragrant air of the inner chamber was thick with the soothing scent of crushed cedar and sweet river lilies. This private aquatic sanctuary offered a rare, peaceful respite from the crushing burdens of managing the vast, turning universe. The supreme god stepped softly into the shallow pool, ready to surrender the immense weight of his cosmic administration. He slowly stripped off his radiant heavy crown, placing the brilliant symbol of his celestial lordship carefully upon an elevated stone pedestal. Thick woven robes of shimmering gold were laid gently aside, leaving him completely vulnerable and relaxed in the warm, fragrant mist. As the ruler of the universe allowed the soothing tranquility of the water to fully embrace his weary mind, the massive lion-headed eagle crept silently into the sacred chamber. The glowing tablet of Destinies rested unguarded upon the high altar, casting a pulsing and hypnotic light across the smooth plaster walls. It was a sinister moment of absolute betrayal, a quiet breath taken just before the very fabric of reality was torn apart. With a sudden and violent burst of speed, the monstrous bird lunged forward and snatched the heavy clay ledger, clenching them tightly in his sharp talons. The blinding light of the holy codes illuminated his feathered chest as he secured the ultimate prize of the heavens. Before the resting god could even rise from the water, the treacherous guardian launched his massive body into the open air. Anzu flew rapidly toward the distant and unreachable mountains far away, carrying the supreme authority of the universe tightly in his grasp. His massive wings beat furiously against the atmosphere, generating roaring whirlwinds that masked his sudden, chaotic escape. Enlil was left helplessly in his purifying bath, stripped of the divine power that legitimized his unquestioned rule. The immediate consequences of this unprecedented theft sent a terrifying shockwave cascading rapidly through the celestial domain. By removing the glowing ledger from its rightful place, the monstrous bird had instantly paralyzed the ever-turning inner mechanism of the universe. The familiar, soothing hum of the planetary spheres ground to a violent and jarring halt, freezing the night sky in place. Without the guiding frequencies of the sacred clay, the divine rites of the heavenly council were fraught with panicked gods. A heavy and unnatural silence fell completely over the primeval pantheon, replacing the flawless harmony of their administration with a crushing dread. The fate of the mortal world now hung suspended in a state of chaos, waiting blindly in the dark. The terrifying unpredictability of the untamed wilderness had suddenly returned, eclipsing the beautiful mathematical certainty of the great celestial wheel. The terrifying paralysis of the universe cast a suffocating shadow over the once luminous assembly hall of the great gods. The highest celestial authorities, even the supreme sky god An and the wise water god Ea, shrank back in absolute terror as the rhythmic heartbeat of creation came to a deafening halt. A crushing and unnatural silence blanketed the divine pantheon of the Anunnaki, leaving the eternal architects of the cosmos completely powerless in the face of this unprecedented betrayal. From the depths of this profound cosmic despair, a singular figure stepped bravely forward to break the agonizing stillness of the frozen court. The valiant warrior god Ninurta, the loyal and dedicated son of the deposed Enlil, refused to surrender his beloved universe to the encroaching darkness. He humbly accepted the staggering challenge of hunting down the monstrous Anzu bird, swearing to restore the flawless mathematical order of the primeval world. Armed with the heavy and resonant weapons of the storm, the young champion departed from the celestial sanctuary and traveled swiftly toward the distant Zagros Mountains in the east. The cold and unmoving atmosphere of the frozen earth rushed past his face as he approached the treacherous rocky peaks where the beast had taken refuge. High upon a dark and unyielding cliff, he discovered the towering lion-headed eagle resting proudly with his stolen prize. The fierce clash began with a sudden, deafening roar that violently shook the very foundations of the sleeping terrestrial planes. Ninurta drew his heavy wooden bow with absolute focus, releasing a swift volley of sharp, whistling arrows aimed directly at the feathered chest of the guardian. But the massive, primeval beast possessed the ultimate authority of the heavens, still clutching the glowing tablet of Destinies tightly within his sharp, curved talons. Utilizing the intoxicating power of the sacred clay, Anzu bent the absolute laws of nature to reverse the steady flow of time itself. As deadly projectiles sped through the cold mountain air, the glowing holy codes commanded their physical components to instantly dissolve. The beautifully crafted weapons magically reverted into unworked reeds and loose bird feathers, scattering harmlessly into the dark, chaotic winds of the high mountain pass. The valiant warrior watched in absolute disbelief as his fiercest and most calculated attacks were rendered completely useless by the hypnotic power of the heavy earthen ledger. As the violent clash seemed entirely lost to the forces of chaos, a gentle and calming presence reached the weary mind of the struggling champion. The wise water god whispered a clever and strategic solution directly into the relentless winds rushing around him. His secretive guidance revealed a hidden flaw within the divine magic of the stolen tablet, offering a brilliant path to a magnificent victory. The wise water god instructed the warrior to aim his next strike away from the heart of the beast, targeting instead the massive feathered pinions of his roaring wings. Severing the primary feathers of the monster would send his dark feathers spinning through the intense storm. When the creature instinctively attempted to use the glowing ledger to reverse time and recall the arrows, the magic would become fatally confused. The intoxicating power of the clay would mistakenly draw the deadly wooden weapons directly into his own severed floating feathers. Embracing this profound and clever strategy, Ninurta raised his heavy bow once again with a renewed sense of divine purpose. He released a powerful and precise strike that sheared the massive pinions of the great Anzu bird, scattering his plumage wildly across the turbulent, twisting currents of the high-altitude storm. In a desperate attempt to defend himself against the flying projectiles, the monster invoked the supreme authority of the clay to recall the scattering materials of the arrows, as Ea had anticipated. The absolute magic of the tablet blindly obeyed the panicked command, pulling the loose feathers of the arrows directly toward the severed plumage of the beast. The long wooden shafts were dragged effortlessly along the magical current, burying themselves deeply into the chest of the bewildered guardian. The fearsome lion-headed eagle fell heavily upon the rocky mountain floor, defeated by the very cosmic power he had so violently sought to control. With the primeval sentinel finally subdued upon the stone, the heavy glowing ledger was gently lifted from his lifeless talons. Ninurta carried the blinding light of the holy codes safely back to the high celestial court, returning the inner engine of the universe to its rightful place. He placed the legendary tablet of Destinies reverently into the open hands of his grateful father, Enlil. The very moment the heavy clay touched the hands of the supreme deity, the familiar and soothing hum of the planetary spheres was instantly restored. The frozen cosmic gears slowly began to turn once again, bringing the divine rites of the heavenly assembly back into a flawless and eternal rhythm. This magnificent restoration permanently cemented the absolute supremacy of Enlil over the entire terrestrial realm, erasing any threat of chaos from the waking world. Returning to his secluded northern sanctuary, the immense authority of the great wind god was now unchallenged and eternally secured by the bravery of his loyal son. The sprawling agricultural empires resting upon the muddy earth were once again blanketed by the highly predictable and comforting turning of the great celestial wheel. The unyielding fates of the mortal realm were forever tethered to the majestic rotating domain of his high northern sky. Looking upward from their quiet, high temple platforms, the dedicated priests of early Mesopotamia felt this newly secured celestial order blooming directly above their resting cities. To them, this magnificent restoration of cosmic workings was not merely a distant and comforting myth. It was a majestic, mathematical reality written permanently into the crystalline expanse of the deep night sky. Drifting smoothly across sprawling mud-brick settlements, every rush of cold northern air was viewed by these ancients as the very breath of Enlil himself. This steady, whispering breeze swept peacefully over the fertile plains, bringing a soothing and continuous rhythm to the entire empire. The physical sensation of this rushing atmospheric current provided a deeply tangible connection to mystical cosmic forces operating silently overhead. As the cool breath of the wind god washed over their tired bodies, devoted priests felt a profound reassurance vibrating through smooth plaster floors. This rhythmic current carried the sweet scent of blooming orchards high into a crystalline expanse, mingling the earthy fragrance of the delta with the pure essence of the stars. Its hypnotic, shifting movement perfectly matched the slow, majestic rotation of 33 specific constellations residing within that highest starry band. Early astronomers recognized this high northern path as an ultimate luminous crown of our universe, casting a protective blanket of silver light over the sleeping delta. Patient scribes meticulously catalogued every glowing cluster within this grand domain, pressing their precise observations into heavy clay columns of the legendary MUL.APIN. To an ancient mind, this highest luminous crown was an ultimate destination of celestial energy, pouring divine intelligence directly down upon the mortal realm. The 33 constellations residing within this most revered band were not seen as lifeless masses of burning gas, but as vibrant and living entities. They functioned as a flawlessly structured assembly of glowing silver spheres, keeping close and careful watch as they turned with a beautiful mathematical grace. The thick earthen tablets of the scribes smelled sweetly of burning cedar resin, serving as a permanent and tactile record of the turning astronomical wheel. Every soft, repetitive scrape of a reed stylus against yielding mud captured the flawless geometry of these northern skies. It was a deeply meditative labor of supreme devotion, grounding the lofty movements of an atmospheric canopy into a logical, earthly format. Exploring the astronomical magic of this vast northern path reveals a deeply comforting, surreal geometry woven into the very fabric of our cosmos. While outer edges of this sweeping territory feature stars that gently dip below a dark horizon for a brief rest, a glowing core of central constellations stubbornly refuses to ever touch the earth, remaining forever suspended above subterranean waters of the deep abyss. This stubborn refusal to ever dip below flat green plains elevated these central stars into a realm of absolute and untouchable supremacy. They remained entirely insulated from dark subterranean waters, preserving their brilliance throughout the heaviest shadows of midnight. Watching these luminary bodies circle the celestial pole brought immense psychological comfort to the waking city, wrapping its sprawling mud-brick civilization in a blanket of permanent security. These unique celestial bodies traced perfect circles around the highest peak of the sky, creating a mesmerizing loop of endless glittering light which persisted throughout the longest hours of deep night. Their unwavering circular pathways form a brilliant mathematical anchor, holding the chaotic wilderness at bay. Because these specific stars never set below their horizons, they act as eternal, unsleeping sentinels of the ancient night, maintaining a constant and unwavering vigil over a vulnerable world, shining brightly while the exhausted mortal population surrenders to a restorative slumber. Their permanent presence in the upper atmosphere offered breathtaking reassurance that great cosmic guardians would never abandon their heavenly posts. Wandering shepherds, looking up into the magically shimmering expanse, dedicated themselves to the predictable peace found in the reliable clockwork of these rotating spheres. The fragility of a primeval wilderness was beautifully replaced by the soothing rotation of this circumpolar crown. Every flickering point of light was recognized as a deliberate, purposeful marker, placed carefully in the heavens by the supreme triad to guide the sprawling mud-brick empire below. Tracking the steady, continuous rotation of these never-setting stars provided early humanity with an ultimate celestial calendar. This permanent anchor of the high northern crown dictated precise rhythmic cycles of the earthly harvest, guiding a sprawling civilization through changing seasons. Ancient populations relied completely on this unwavering light to know exactly when to open their heavy wooden gates, allowing sweet river water to fill thirsty irrigation canals. Following the reliable circular pathways of these celestial bodies told farmers the exact moment to plant their precious seeds deep into damp river clay, and the perfect time to reap golden grain, ensuring that the fertile plains would continuously yield an abundant and beautiful bounty. Precise rhythmic cycles of planting were no longer a matter of mere chance against untamed forces. They gained absolute mastery over their own earthly destiny, guaranteed by the flawless rotation of this northern crown, allowing the early agricultural empire to truly flourish. By anchoring their strategy to this mathematically perfect domain, bustling cities were completely shielded from the chaos of sudden scarcity. The sprawling primeval society was safely cradled in a protective blanket of celestial certainty, resting comfortably under a watchful gaze of the great Anunnaki gods. The soothing reliability of these catalogued omens slowly led ancient astronomers toward a new realization, drawing their attention to specific shapes traced by silver light. The grand architecture of a northern sky was not merely a collection of random glowing dots, but a vast and readable canvas of divine intelligence. Dedicated observers began to recognize comforting shapes. These luminous figures held intriguing meaning to ancient peoples, their twinkling glow translating into an eternal calling to journey directly through the specific stars of the heavenly harvest. Within the highest luminous crown of the northern sky, wandering mortal eyes began to recognize deeply familiar patterns hiding within the turning heavens. The scattered embers of burning light were no longer viewed as isolated points of silver, but rather as a vast and readable canvas of divine intelligence. Individual twinkling spheres were conceptually woven together by the minds of ancient priests, forming the very first recorded constellations of the primeval world. Through the quiet and patient observation of these brilliant celestial bodies, invisible threads of human imagination and divine intent began to gently intertwine them. Dedicated stargazers drew soft lines across the mysterious tapestry of the night, creating magnificent and comforting figures that perfectly mirrored the daily lives of their resting agricultural empire, offering an absolute and unwavering reassurance to the sleeping mud-brick cities below. Our hypnotic journey through this majestic northern crown begins with the most prominent and recognizable shape of the grand celestial harvest. Gliding slowly and peacefully across the far reaches of the universe, a massive arrangement of stars forms the distinct and brilliant outline of a heavenly plough. This magnificent starry tool breaks the dark veil of night with a slow and patient grace, quietly preparing the cosmic soil for an eternal and bountiful planting. Ancient astronomers were so deeply captivated by this specific starry figure that it became the ultimate defining symbol of their entire astronomical tradition. The legendary clay compendium known across the ancient world as the MUL.APIN derived its famous name directly from this exact constellation of the high northern sky. Patient scribes deliberately chose the starry plough to be the very first celestial figure recorded upon its heavy earthen surface, forever honoring its guiding silver light. Watching this massive agricultural instrument turn continuously around the celestial pole, the devoted priests felt a profound and spiritual connection to their own fertile valleys. Its glowing path across the endless expanse of darkness beautifully mimicked the rich and muddy furrows of the earthly Euphrates River, stretching effortlessly across the lower delta. The heavy, relentless labor of the mortal farmers working in the damp soil was perfectly reflected in the flawless organization of the starry vault, shining brightly above them. Within the fragrant and shadowed halls of the high temples, ancient scholars connected this glowing plough to the peaceful farmer god known to history as Enkidu. He was the trusted and dedicated agricultural overseer of the great wind god Enlil, responsible for tending the lush and vibrant pastures of the sweeping terrestrial plains. Under his benevolent and quiet guidance, the grand harvest of the sky was silently pulled across the heavens, ensuring a continuous and abundant cosmic bounty. The soothing presence of Enkidu radiated outward from the glittering stars. Every subtle movement of the celestial plough was a divine guarantee that the dark and yielding earth would always provide a rich and sustaining harvest. This profound agricultural magic filtered down through the cool night air, wrapping the vast Mesopotamian plains in a heavy blanket of absolute celestial certainty. The hypnotic rotation of this celestial plough leaves a freshly turned cosmic furrow in its wake, gently inviting the wandering mind to follow its graceful trajectory. Following the long wooden handle of the starry instrument downward, the glowing image morphs into the shape of a completely different celestial figure, seamlessly merging with the fierce and watchful outline of a primeval protector resting quietly in the dark. To fully understand this starry transition, one must first look at the clever and highly efficient farming mechanics utilized by the early shepherds of the Delta. Ancient planters attached a narrow wooden seed-dropping funnel directly to their heavy ploughs, ensuring that their precious seeds fell safely and deeply into the wet earth. There, hovering patiently beside this celestial funnel in the night sky, is a fierce and loyal constellation known to the early stargazers as the Wolf. In the ancient tongue of the Sumerian priests, this glowing guardian was also known as the Mad Dog, or the Ori-Deem. It is a vigilant and unwavering sentry, woven entirely from brilliant silver starlight, sitting with a calm and terrifying focus at the very edge of the plough. The individual stars that make up the face of this celestial wolf burn with an intense, piercing clarity against the pitch-black void. His vigilant glowing eyes scan the endless and shadowy horizon, watching carefully over the delicate seeds falling from the heavenly plough. This magnificent and frightening creature acts as a loyal and eternal protector of the cosmic agricultural bounty, standing bravely against the encroaching primeval darkness. The resting population of the sprawling mud-brick empire could sleep soundly, trusting completely in the absolute security provided by this watchful animal. The chaotic and untamed shadows of the deep night were effortlessly held at bay by the unwavering gaze of the heavenly wolf. Its bright starry outline serves as a permanent reminder that the delicate balance of creation is always shielded from destructive forces. As the great plough continues its slow and steady journey across the northern sky, the glowing wolf follows closely behind with an obedient, silent grace. This beautiful partnership between the agricultural tool and its fierce protector creates a mesmerizing dance of light that sweeps across the sleeping delta. The rhythm of the planting and the silent promise of protection merge perfectly together, vibrating softly through the damp river clay beneath the ancient city. As our wandering mortal eyes are eventually drawn away from the turning furrows, we cast our gaze slightly beyond the vigilant canine to the quiet edges of the cosmic pasture, The protective energy of the wolf gradually softens into a feeling of gentle and benevolent guidance radiating from neighboring clusters of luminance. The majestic architecture of the northern crown continues to reveal its ancient and soothing secrets, inviting the weary spirit to drift even further into the vast folds of space. There we find deep resonating solace in a much softer celestial glow illuminating a quiet cosmic pasture. Scattered points of brilliant light perfectly aligned to form a gentle, sweeping curve across an endlessly dark, velvety expanse. Ancient astronomers recognized this graceful starry arch as an enormous wooden staff. Patient scribes of early antiquity named this comforting astronomical shape Gam, representing a majestic shepherd crook suspended permanently high above their resting heads. This beautiful, softly glowing tool belonged to Dumuzi, a legendary divine shepherd woven deeply into primeval Mesopotamian lore since its earliest dawn. According to the legendary Sumerian king's list recorded on the weld-blundell prism, he was the fifth antediluvian king of Bad Tibira, who reigned 36,000 long years. His tender celestial presence radiated an aura of absolute reassurance, blanketing those sprawling green plains with a flawless protective energy that chased away all lingering fears of a primordial world. This magnificent instrument of guidance was not forged from earthly timber, but carefully carved from pure starlight to last for all eternity. It swept across the upper atmosphere with a slow, hypnotic grace that calmed any restless minds belonging to weary, mud-stained laborers. Looking up at this softly glowing symbol allowed ancient populations to completely surrender their daytime worries to a benevolent, cosmic caretaker, wrapping their exhausted spirits in an unbreakable seal of divine safety. Dumuzi utilized his magnificent wooden staff to secure the quiet borders of a vast, wandering celestial flock, keeping these drifting spheres of light perfectly in line as they slowly circled the northern night sky. Every glittering star was carefully guided along its highly predictable pathway with an effortless precision. Mortal shepherds sleeping deeply upon damp river clay felt an overwhelming peace from this constant, unwavering divine oversight. They knew their own earthly flocks were safely mirrored by a flawlessly managed cosmic herd shining silently in a distant, majestic sky. This unbreakable bond between a luminous heaven above, together with yielding mud below, dissolved all traces of nighttime anxiety into a sweet, fragrant breeze sweeping across a quiet delta. The divine shepherd stood as an eternal, unwavering sentinel, preventing chaotic forces from ever breaching his carefully ordered domain. His starry crook constantly swept away dark shadows, ensuring that the delicate balance of creation remained entirely undisturbed by malevolent entities lurking in the endless void. Early humanity found profound healing comfort in knowing their fragile, fleeting existence was continually watched over by such a devoted, caring celestial guardian. Guiding our gaze even deeper into the quiet, pulsing heart of this northern crown, another deeply mesmerizing figure awaits, slowly turning in infinite space. A heavy, sprawling cluster of dim stars forms a majestic shape known to ancient stargazers as Shugi. Early priests translated this massive astronomical body simply as the Old Man, his ancient form resting peacefully in a dark, silent void, floating far above bustling mortal cities. This heavy, slow-moving constellation turns with a patient, exhausted grace across an endless cosmic sea. Its dull silver glow paints a profound picture of eternal sleep wrapping gently around an exhausted divine body. Primeval clay records reveal this specific starry figure to represent a legendary resting deity named Enmeshara, marking him as a revered original ancestor of the sprawling Mesopotamian pantheon. He was a legendary forefather to a multitude of lesser deities, swathed tightly in a quiet, undisturbed slumber that lasted for countless forgotten ages. Enmeshara served as a deep, unmoving structural foundation for that entire northern crown of rotating constellations. His resting form provided a permanent, heavy anchor for a relentlessly turning celestial vault, absorbing any fragmented vibrations. The all-encompassing stillness radiating from this sleeping deity served as a powerful celestial lullaby which rang softly through the streets of the first cities. Masons, farmers, and scribes alike all felt a deep, resonating permission to lay down their heavy tools, trusting completely in the divine design. Earthly anxieties simply dissolved into a soft, fragrant mist that drifted lazily over quiet southern marshlands, leaving only a pure, uncorrupted peace in its wake. The lengthy, sprawling age of this slumbering god carried a heavy, peaceful exhaustion that drifted slowly downward through the refreshingly cool night air. It washed smoothly over sprawling mud-brick cities, gently inviting weary populations to finally surrender their physical, daily burdens. A thick blanket of restorative silence fell gracefully across fertile river valleys, perfectly mimicking a divine restfulness projected directly from the majestic starry canopy. Watching this ancient ancestor turn endlessly around the central pole, his deep sleep proved that even mighty divine creators required a quiet, insulated refuge from their devoted labor. This beautiful realization allowed the mortal human spirit to fully embrace dark, comforting shadows of midnight, finding unspoken permission to finally pause their own endless toil. The hypnotic rotation of these highest northern stars continues to weave an intricate tapestry of divine reassurance across the silence of the celestial vault. While the peaceful exhaustion of that slumbering ancestor radiates outward through the void, his quiet form rests softly at the very foundation of a much larger spiritual tapestry. The 33 northern constellations flow beautifully together across this endless expanse, seamlessly weaving their individual glowing embers into a unified and majestic celestial crown. This breathtaking halo travels smoothly within the highest and most revered band of the night sky in the path of Enlil. An unwavering reliability governs the slow and patient transit of these luminous spheres, ensuring that their radiant presence remains a constant blessing over the terrestrial planes. They drift along their highly predictable pathways with a flawless and spiritual harmony, never faltering in their endless journey around the cosmic pole. While the exhausted mortal world surrenders completely to a deep and restorative slumber, this breathing spiritual tapestry of the heavens never pauses its mesmerizing flow. The profound divine intelligence that animates these glowing constellations remains entirely active, bathing the shadows of midnight in a pure and untarnished silver glow, creating a living and continuous display of celestial grace, which proved that the highest realms of the universe tirelessly watch over the fragile mud-brick empires below. Ancient priests viewed these guides as eternal and unsleeping watchers, tracing perfect circles of light that stubbornly refused to ever dip below the flat earthly horizon. Their permanent elevation within the northern crown allowed them to maintain a constant and benevolent vigil over the resting delta. A sprawling, vulnerable agricultural society was gently wrapped in the comforting assurance that these radiant guardians would never abandon their lofty posts. To the early astronomers of ancient Mesopotamia, the vast and starry expanse above us was not thought of as a random scattering of drifting lights across an empty void. It was recognized as a living and inherently intelligent design, a deliberate masterpiece of cosmic brilliance blooming directly within the dark, velvety expanse. This flawless architecture of the deep, mysterious sky held the profound and ancient secrets of all existence, waiting quietly to reveal its structural beauty to those who possessed the patience to look. Dedicated stargazers spent countless generations immersed in the quiet observation of these unworldly bodies of heavenly light, seeking to comprehend their graceful and sweeping movements. Their patient and meditative study of the celestial sphere was meticulously translated into physical form, pressed deeply into heavy earthen clay tablets, their wedge-shaped markings whispering the secrets of an eternity. The timeless wisdom gathered from these high temple platforms would outlast even the towering mud-brick ziggurats of the priests who first recorded their luminous paths. These magnificent celestial blueprints were beautifully immortalized in legendary clayworks, such as the MUL.APIN, capturing the flawless geometry of the stars with absolute devotion. Other sprawling compendiums, like the Enuma Anu Enlil, collected the subtle atmospheric omens of the sky, while later Assyrian masterworks, like the circular planisphere of Nineveh, provided a stunning physical reflection of the turning heavens. Together, these sacred artifacts preserved the living memory of a civilization that anchored its entire existence to the pure and unwavering light of the cosmos. From the dizzying and mystical heights of this starry vault to the heavy weight of the physical resting earth below, the cool and rushing atmospheric currents of the wind god sweep softly downward, carrying the pure essence of the stars directly into the shadowed valleys. The vast, sprawling Mesopotamian settlements lay perfectly still beneath the open sky, completely insulated from untamed forces by a thick blanket of divine certainty. The sweet, soothing scent of damp river reeds is carried lightly on the gently drifting night breeze, lingering lazily over the reflective glassy surface of the winding irrigation canals. The rich and earthy fragrance of the fertile delta rises to meet the pristine air of the upper atmosphere, creating a flawless union between the ground and the heavens. The peaceful rhythmic breathing of an ancient agricultural empire slowly synchronizes with the slow and graceful sweep of the stars turning silently above. Every quiet exhalation from the slumbering city perfectly matches the steady and unbroken flow of the celestial crown. An absolute, uncorrupted peace vibrates softly through the damp river clay, settling deeply into the resting bones of the weary laborers who tended to the blooming orchards. We dissolve completely into the sleepy, surreal land of this ancient time, fully embracing the unbroken continuance of a universe that moves with a deliberate, intelligent design. The staggering age of the cosmos offers a profound healing reassurance, proving that the delicate spark of life is protectively sheltered by much older, wiser powers. All worldly concerns simply melt away into the thick, fragrant mist rolling across the quiet primordial marshlands, leaving nothing but an empty and tranquil void. A spiritual harmony rings softly through the steady and mesmerizing flow of the northern crown, casting long dancing shadows over the sleeping mud-brick cities below. The endless turning of these ancient constellations weaves an intricate lullaby that resonates gently across the sprawling green plains, reaching all the way down into the dark subterranean waters of the abyss, in a soft and eternal melody that calms the restless human spirit, smoothing away the rough edges of the waking world with its hypnotic rhythm. The quiet architecture of the night sky beacons to the weary spirit, providing an ultimate sanctuary for deep relaxation, subtly guiding tired souls into a gentle, restorative slumber. Wrapped in the warm embrace of heavenly guidance, we drift off peacefully into the darkest hours of night, floating weightlessly upon a calm, endless cosmic ocean. Clay tablets left by the ancient Sumerians thousands of years ago tell us that we lay forever wrapped in the devoutly protective security and infinite celestial embrace of Enlil. As we share and ponder these stories left us by those ancient records, carefully crafted in wet river clay so long ago, we rest in the quiet assurance that the celestial realm above continues to guide us as it always has and always will.